Let's look at the scope of a financial service, which is our second component. The FACE Act defines a financial service as advice and/or intermediary service. The words and/or are very important. They tell you that one activity on its own or a combination of activities are regarded as a financial service. This means that a financial service may consist of advice only, an intermediary service only, or both advice and an intermediary service. In each of these three instances, authorization is required before a financial service may be rendered. The difference lies in the scope of authorization required for the particular financial service being performed. The key compliance principle is that authorization follows the type of financial service rendered in relation to a specific financial product. Let's apply this principle to Imani brokers, which distribute funeral policies. The financial product remains the same in each scenario. It is still a funeral policy. However, the required scope of authorization changes depending on whether Imani Brokers provides advice, an intermediary service, or both. If Imani Brokers provides advice only, it is rendering a financial service and must be authorized for long-term insurance advice. If Imani Brokers provide an intermediary service only, it is still rendering a financial service and it must be authorized for long-term insurance intermediary service. If Imani Brokers provides both advice and intermediary service, it is still rendering a financial service. However, it must be authorized for both long-term insurance advice and long-term insurance intermediary services. So it will hold two types of licenses. Therefore, the scope of authorization is determined by the nature of the financial services rendered and not merely by the financial product involved. Let's work through this exam type question carefully. The question asks, which of the following is regarded as a financial service under FACE? Option A, advice only. Option B, intermediary services only. Option C, advice and intermediary service. Option D, all of the above. The correct answer is option D, all of the above. A usual way to analyze this type of question is to convert each option into an authorization question. Let's test each option separately. For option A, ask yourself, does a person require authorization if they provide advice only? Yes. Advice only falls within the definition of a financial service and requires appropriate authorization. Therefore, option A is correct. For option B, ask yourself, does a person require authorization if they provide an intermediary services only? Yes, an intermediary service on its own falls within the definition of a financial service and requires the appropriate authorization. Therefore, option B is also correct. For option C, ask yourself, does a person require authorization if they provide both advice and intermediary service? Yes, the person is rendering a financial service and requires authorization for both the advisory and intermediary components. Therefore, option C is also correct. Because all three of the preceding scenarios fall within the definition of a financial service, the correct answer is option D, all of the above. Now, there is an important exam trap that you need to remember when you see all of the above or none of the above. Some learners assume that all of the above and none of the above are unlikely to be correct answers in multiple choice assessments. You must not apply this assumption in the regulatory exam. The regulatory exam tests your ability to apply statutory definitions and legal stipulations. Where your analysis show that every option satisfies the question, all of the above is the correct answer. Likewise, where none of the options satisfies the question, none of the above is the correct answer. Always determine the answer through legal analysis rather than exam technique. If your analysis show that all the options are correct, select all of the above with confidence. If your analysis show that none of the options is correct, select none of the above with confidence. Now we're going to look at the first type of financial service advice. The definition of advice is any recommendation, guidance, or suggestion of a financial nature given to a client or group of clients. The form of the communication and the medium used do not matter. Advice may relate to purchasing or investing in a financial product, changing, replacing, or terminating a financial product, or entering into a transaction. This includes a loan or cession through which another party receives a right to benefits issued under a financial product. Remember 3 important points. A communication may still be advice, regardless of the medium used. When it forms part of financial planning or even when no transaction is ultimately concluded. Now, let's consider the integrity of advice. If advice is misleading, confusing, or contains incorrect info, FSCA may instruct that it may be withdrawn, stopped, or amended. The most important part of the advice check is determining whether the message is subjective or objective. A message is subjective when info about the financial product is communicated as a recommendation or a value judgment. It encourages a client or a group of clients to follow a particular course of action, stating that it suits their specific needs. In practical terms, advice occurs when someone expresses an opinion about a financial product in relation to the circumstances of a client or group of clients. By contrast, objective, factual, or descriptive info that contains no opinion is specifically excluded from the definition of advice. This leads to an important exam trap. Although factual information is not advice, you must not automatically classify every non-advice activity as an intermediary service. When a person only communicates objective information about the financial product, the activity is neither advice nor an intermediary service. It falls outside of the scope of the FACE Act because no professional judgment is used. The interaction is therefore governed by the Consumer Protection Act. However, the classification changes when factual information is provided as part of concluding a transaction in an intermediary capacity. In that situation, the activity is an intermediary service. Therefore, always consider the role that the factual information plays. Factual information provided on its own is not advice and not an intermediary service. When an intermediary transaction is concluded based on factual info, it is an intermediary service. The medium of communication does not change this test. The same message may constitute advice whether it's communicated in person, by telephone, or through a leaflet. Advice is opinion-based communication. Non-advice is factual communication that only contains objective info. The determining factor is the content of the message and not how it is delivered. Here is a useful exam technique. When you encounter an advice check question in the regulatory exam, use your black pen to strike through any reference to the communication medium, then determining whether the message is objective or subjective. Do not rely on intuition, practical experience, or your personal understanding. The regulatory exam tests whether you can apply the law as it is written. In practice, exemptions may modify stipulations to accommodate practical realities. However, when performing the advice check in the regulatory exam, do not apply specific exemptions that do not form part of the original definition. Your task is to apply the original phase definition to the relevant component. Let's use this advice check to decide whether communication is advice. There are two components that we must look at. Component 1 is the business activity and component 2 is the recipient nature. Once we have looked at these two components, we work through the decision question. Start with question 1. Is an offer made to buy, change or replace a product? If the answer is yes, go to question 2. If the answer is no, move to the intermediary check. Question 2 asks, is the communication purely factual? If the answer is yes, it's a non-phase relation. If the answer is no, it's advice. So remember the order. First ask whether an offer is made to buy, change or replace a product. If the answer is yes, check whether the communication is purely factual. A purely factual communication results in a non-phase relationship, while a communication that is purely opinion-based results in advice. Now we are going to consider the second type of financial service, which is an intermediary service. Let's break down the definition dynamics of an intermediary service. The FACE Act defines an intermediary service as any non-advised action performed either on behalf of a product supplier or a client, or on behalf of a client to a product supplier. The outcome of the action must be one of the following. The client enters a value relation. The client offers to enter into a value relation. Or the client is given an opportunity or facility to enter into a value relation. The action must also be performed with the intention of doing one or more of the following: buying, selling or dealing in a financial product on a discretionary or non-discretionary basis. Managing, administrating, safeguarding, maintaining or servicing a financial product holding. Collective premiums or any other money payable by the client to a product supplier, or receiving, submitting or processing a client's claim against a product supplier. Let's simplify this definition by dividing it into three parts: the mediating nature, the value offer outcome, and the value management intention. We will begin with the mediating nature. In simple terms, the FACE Act defines an intermediary service as a non-advised activity performed by an intermediary which produces a specific result and is carried out with a specific intention. The first part of the intermediary service definition refers to any non-advised act performed either on behalf of a client to a product supplier or on behalf of a product supplier to a client. This tells you that the nature of the activity must satisfy two conditions. First, the activity must not be advised. Second, the activity must be performed by an intermediary and not directly by the product supplier. An activity that satisfies both of these conditions has a mediating nature. Next, we consider the value offer outcome. The second part of the intermediary service definition sets the outcome conditions that must be met for a mediating activity to be defined as intermediary service. A mediating activity is eligible for classification as an intermediary service when its outcome is entering into a value relation, or when its outcome is an offer, opportunity, or facility to enter into a value relation. In other words, the outcome must allow the client to enter a value relation, offer to enter a value relation, or be given the opportunity or facility to enter a value relation. Finally, we consider the value management intention. The final condition that must be satisfied for mediating activity to conform to the intermediary service definition concerns the intention behind the activity. The activity must be performed with the intention of discretionary or non-discretionary transaction in a financial product. Alternatively, it may be performed with the intention of managing, administrating, safeguarding, maintaining, or servicing a financial product holding. It may also be performed with the intention of collecting premiums or other monies payable by the client. Or it may be performed with the intention of administering claims on behalf of a product supplier. This includes receiving, submitting, or processing a client's claim against a product supplier. The important point is that a mediating nature on its own is not enough. A mediating activity qualifies as an intermediary service only when both the required outcome and the required intention conditions are satisfied. Therefore, you must identify all three definition dynamics: the mediating nature, the value of an outcome, and the value management intention. Let's work through the intermediary check. The purpose of the check is to determine whether a particular business activity qualifies as an intermediary service. The intermediary check has two components. Component 1 is the business activity. Component 2 is the business role. Always begin with the business activity. You must identify what is actually being done and confirm that the activity is non-advice. Once you have considered the business activity, you must evaluate the business role. This allows you to determine whether the activity is mediating in nature. Remember that a mediating activity requires the product supplier and the FSP to be two separate entities. If the activity is performed directly by the product supplier is not acting as an intermediary between itself and the client. Now let's apply the two decision questions. Question 1. Is an instructional payment facilitated? If the answer is yes, continue to question 2. If the answer is no, check whether the activity constitutes advice. Question 2 asks, is the activities performed by the product supplier? If the answer is yes, the activity is a non-phase regulated for purposes of this intermediary check. If the answer is no, the product supplier and the FSP are separate entities. The activity is therefore mediating in nature and is classified as an intermediary service, so the sequence is important. First, examine the business activity to confirm that it's not advice and determine whether an instruction or payment is being facilitated. Secondly, examine the business role to determine who is performing the activity. If the product supplier performs the activity directly, it is non-phase regulated for purposes of the intermediary check. If a separate FSP performs the activity between the product supplier and a client, it's an intermediary service. You must also pay particular attention to the exemption check when performing an intermediary check. The bank premium collection exemption is frequently tested in the regulatory exams. Therefore, whenever the activity involves a bank facilitating the collection of premiums, remember to check whether the applicable exemption applies before reaching your final conclusion. When you know how to perform an intermediary check, let's determine whether an interaction is mediating in nature. A mediating nature means that the product supplier and the FSP are two separate entities. The product supplier is the business that issues the financial product. It receives the premium or investment and it is responsible for the product benefits or investments. The FSP is the business that markets, sells, or facilitates the financial product. Always ask whether the scenario identifies one business or two separate businesses. For example, if a broker takes an application form and submits it to an insurer, the broker is the FSP and the insurer is the product supplier. Because the broker acts between the client and the insurer, the interaction is mediating in nature. Look for phrases such as on behalf of, because they indicate that one part is acting as between the client and the product supplier. However, two separate entities do not automatically establish an intermediary service. They establish only that interaction if it's a mediating nature that conforms to the intention and the management aspect. You must still require that aspect before concluding the activity as an intermediary service.